A church famous for overflowing crowds, a 16,800-seat arena, and a weekly attendance figure that rivals major sports franchises. Yet behind Joel Osteen's brand, his co-pastor Victoria wields a title rarely examined. If image is everything at Lakewood, what happens when the secondary face becomes the institution's biggest public gamble? The answer lies at the heart of Lakewood's paradox, and it starts with the receipts people can't stop circulating. In 1959, John Osteen opened the doors to a small church in Houston, planting the seeds of what would become Lakewood. Over the next 4 decades, the congregation grew steadily, shaped by John's blend of charismatic preaching and a message rooted in the Word of Faith movement. The church's real transformation, though, came after John's death in 1999. Joel Osteen stepped into the pulpit, bringing a new era of media-savvy optimism and expanding Lakewood's reach far beyond Houston. The scale of Lakewood today is hard to overstate. The church's home is the former Compaq Center, once known as the Summit, a landmark arena that hosted NBA games and major concerts. After securing a long-term lease from the city in the early 2000s, Lakewood invested over $80 million to renovate the 16,800-seat facility, converting it into a sprawling sanctuary complete with childcare centers, classrooms, and production studios. By the mid-2000s, Lakewood's weekly attendance was cited around 45,000, spread across multiple services. This made it one of the largest single-campus congregations in the United States, a status the church still claims today. Victoria Osteen, who married Joel in 1987, became increasingly visible on stage and in ministry materials during this period of explosive growth. The Osteen family's presence, first John, then Joel and Victoria, became inseparable from Lakewood's identity. The sheer size of the operation, from the arena's vast seating to the reach of televised services, set the stakes for everything that followed. When a church operates at this scale, every leadership decision, every public moment, carries weight far beyond its walls. Lakewood's official materials list Victoria Osteen as co-pastor, a title that carries real weight in the church's public identity. Her name appears alongside Joel's on the website, in press releases, and on broadcast schedules. She stands on stage each week, delivers messages, and leads the church's women's ministry. Yet in the broader public eye, Joel remains the unmistakable face of Lakewood. His image dominates billboards, book covers, and television spots. This creates a unique tension. The institution claims Keo leadership, but the brand is built on a single charismatic figure. When it comes to accountability, this arrangement complicates how responsibility is assigned. If one leader is the main attraction, the other can shape priorities behind the scenes, shielded from equal scrutiny until public attention lands squarely on both. For anyone trying to judge Lakewood's direction, it is essential to rely on what can be verified. Official titles, attendance numbers, and leadership outputs are all on record. The widely cited figure of 45,000 weekly attendees comes from Lakewood's own reporting, aggregated across multiple services, not from independent audits. To measure influence and impact, it helps to look at 5 observable areas: who preaches and leads from the stage, what gets published in official channels, how money is managed and disclosed, who responds during crises, and which decisions are made public. These are the outputs that can be tracked, forming the basis for any fair assessment of leadership at Lakewood. In December 2005, a dispute erupted on a Continental Airlines flight bound for Colorado. Victoria Osteen was seated in first class with her family, and she became upset over a liquid spill on her armrest. The confrontation that followed involved flight attendant Sharon Brown. The Osteens left the plane with their children before takeoff, and the flight was delayed for more than 2 hours. The Federal Aviation Administration fined Victoria $1,000 for interfering with the crew. She paid that penalty at the time. Sharon Brown filed a civil lawsuit seeking more than $400,000 in damages and alleging emotional distress. The case went to trial in Houston in August 2008. After hearing testimony from both sides, including other passengers, the jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Their verdict was that Victoria Osteen was not liable for assault. The jury foreman called the lawsuit a waste of time, and no damages were awarded. Despite her legal clearance, the story lingered, fueling debates about power, privilege, and the public image of Lakewood's leadership. In 2014, a sermon delivered by Victoria Osteen at Lakewood Church became a flashpoint that still echoes across social media. Standing at the podium, she told the congregation that when we obey God, we are not doing it for God. We are doing it for ourselves, because that is what makes God happy. Within days, a short clip of those words was spreading online, stripped from its broader context and igniting a fierce debate. Critics seized on the phrase, calling it an example of self-centered theology and accusing Lakewood of turning worship into a pursuit of personal happiness. Commentators labeled it Christian narcissism and argued that the line blurred the boundary between faith and self-help. Defenders pushed back and insisted the message was misunderstood. They pointed to the full sermon, where Victoria described God's desire for people to flourish and find joy in worship. Supporters argued that her words, though imperfectly phrased, echoed a common theme in Lakewood's teaching, that honoring God leads to a more fulfilled life. Despite these explanations, the viral clip became shorthand for the church's critics, a digital receipt that resurfaces whenever Lakewood's message comes under fire. In Houston's River Oaks neighborhood, property records list a $10.5 million home purchased by Joel and Victoria Osteen in 2010. The sale, widely covered by local media, fueled ongoing criticism about Lakewood Church's prosperity message and the couple's personal wealth. Supporters point out that book royalties and speaking fees accounted for the purchase, but the optics linger. A mansion in one of the city's most exclusive zip codes is often cited in debates about church leadership and lifestyle. Financial scrutiny intensified in 2020 when Lakewood Church accepted a $4.4 million Paycheck Protection Program loan during the pandemic. The church stated the funds were used to cover payroll for more than 350 employees as in-person services halted. After public backlash and headlines questioning why a megachurch needed federal support, Lakewood repaid the full amount within months. Then reports surfaced about cash and checks totaling nearly $200,000 discovered inside a wall during a 2014 facility repair, years after a theft was reported. Official statements described the find as recovery from a previous crime, but the story added another layer to questions about financial transparency. Each of these episodes, while distinct, has become part of the public's running tally of receipts, fuel for critics who see Lakewood's leadership as out of touch with the values it preaches. In 2024, Joel Osteen stood before the congregation and announced that Lakewood Church had paid off its $100 million renovation loan in full. The church was now debt-free on its landmark facility. The news landed as both a celebration and a statement. For supporters, the payoff was proof of faithfulness and financial discipline, evidence that the church could meet enormous obligations while continuing its outreach and programming. For others, the moment carried a different meaning. The scale of the loan, the public nature of the announcement, and the sheer size of the operation reinforced the perception of Lakewood as a corporate powerhouse. The milestone became a Rorschach test, stewardship to some and excess to others. Either way, the numbers were undeniable, and the announcement crystallized a broader conversation about money, image, and leadership at Lakewood. Hurricane Harvey's floodwaters swallowed entire Houston neighborhoods in late August 2017, and Lakewood Church became a lightning rod for public anger. As images of stranded families circled online, critics accused the church of keeping its doors closed while thousands sought shelter. Lakewood's leadership cited safety concerns, pointing to water inside the building and city guidance on shelter operations. City officials later confirmed that Lakewood coordinated with emergency management and opened as a shelter once it was declared safe on August 28th. Fact checks from Reuters and local outlets documented the timeline, showing a real delay but also highlighting the difference between public outrage and the complicated reality of disaster response. The damage to trust, however, had already spread far beyond Houston. On February 11, 2024, gunfire broke out between services at Lakewood Church. A woman entered the building with her young son and began shooting in a nursery hallway. 2 people were wounded, a 7-year-old boy and a 47-year-old man. Before off-duty police officers assigned to church security shot and killed the suspect within seconds. The incident was sudden and chaotic. Authorities later described the attack as isolated, driven by personal grievances and mental health struggles, and not linked to any wider plot. In the aftermath, Joel Osteen addressed the congregation, offering words of comfort and thanks to law enforcement. Many noticed Victoria Osteen's limited public presence during this crisis, and that perception raised questions about leadership visibility when a community looks for reassurance. The trauma of that day left scars, and the silence around leadership roles lingered in the minds of many. Today, every viral moment or public misstep is instantly archived, and trust is rebuilt far slower than it shatters. For Lakewood, credibility now matters more than crowds. In a digital age, a church's future is not just who preaches, but who the public believes. What does your faith trust?